Have you ever felt like you don't belong anywhere? Like you're around people, but somehow still completely alone? Like something is missing, but you can't explain what it is? You can be in a room full of people and still feel like you're the only one who doesn't belong there. And the strange part is, no one notices. From the outside, you seem normal. You respond. You react. You say the right things. But inside, it feels like there's a distance, a small gap between you and everyone else. Like you're watching everything happen, but you're not fully part of it. And after a while, you start asking yourself questions. Why am I like this? Why does everything feel different for me? Why does it seem so easy for everyone else, but not for me? And those questions don't just stay questions. They slowly turn into something else. Doubt. Doubt about who you are. Doubt about how you think. Doubt about whether something is wrong with you. But here's the truth most people never hear. Feeling different is not a flaw. It's a signal. And once you understand what that signal means, everything starts to make sense. The first reason you feel different is because you notice more than others. Not just obvious things, but subtle things. Small shifts in tone, changes in energy, the way someone looks at you for just a second too long. Things most people ignore, you feel instantly. And because of that, you don't just experience situations, you analyze them. You think about what was said, how it was said, what it meant, what it could mean. And while everyone else just moves on, you're still processing. And that creates distance. Because while others are present, you're thinking. And when you're thinking, you're not fully there. The second reason is something deeper. At some point, you learned how to adjust yourself around others. Maybe you became quieter so you wouldn't stand out too much. Maybe you became more agreeable so people would accept you. Maybe you stopped saying certain things because they didn't seem to land the right way. And slowly, without even realizing it, you started becoming a version of yourself that fits, but not one that's fully real. And at first, this works. You avoid conflict. You blend in better. You feel more accepted. But there's a hidden cost. Because every time you adjust yourself, you move a little further away from who you actually are. And over time, that distance grows. Until one day, you don't feel like yourself anymore. You just feel different. There's something else. You don't feel truly understood. And that kind of loneliness is different. Because it doesn't come from being alone. It comes from feeling unseen. You can be surrounded by people, having conversations, laughing at the same jokes, and still feel like no one really gets you. Not completely. And because of that, you start holding back. You don't say everything you think. You don't show everything you feel. You keep parts of yourself hidden because you feel like they won't be understood anyway. And the more you do that, the more invisible you start to feel. Not physically, but emotionally. And that creates a very specific feeling, that quiet sense of being different. And sometimes it goes even deeper than that. It's not just that you feel different around people. It's that you start feeling different from yourself. Like the version of you that exists around others is not the same version of you when you're alone. And that creates a strange kind of confusion because you don't know which one is real. The one who adapts or the one who feels everything so deeply. And the more you switch between those versions, the more disconnected you start to feel. Not just from people, but from your own identity. And that's where the feeling intensifies. Because now it's not just social, it becomes internal. You're not just questioning your place in the world, you're questioning yourself. And that creates a kind of tension that most people never talk about. You want to be understood, but at the same time, you don't even fully understand yourself anymore. And when that happens, you stop trusting your own reactions. You second-guess your thoughts. You question your feelings. And slowly, you lose that sense of clarity, that sense of knowing who you are. And without that, everything starts to feel unstable. And that instability feels like being different. And there's something else most people don't realize. Feeling different doesn't just affect how you see others. It changes how you experience everything. The way you walk into a room, the way you sit in silence, the way you interpret even the smallest interactions. You start becoming more aware of yourself than of the moment. You notice how you sound, how you move, how you come across. And instead of just being, you start monitoring yourself constantly, and that creates pressure. Because now every interaction feels like something you have to manage, not something you can naturally experience. And over time, that pressure turns into distance. Distance from the moment, distance from other people, and most importantly, distance from your natural self. Because the more you monitor yourself, the less you actually express yourself. And the less you express yourself, the more disconnected you feel. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, because they think the solution is to try harder, to be more social, to be more open, to be more like everyone else. But that only makes the problem worse, because the issue was never that you're not enough. The issue is that you've been moving away from who you are, trying to become someone you think you should be, instead of allowing yourself to be who you already are. And the more you try to fix yourself, the further you move away from yourself. And that's why this feeling doesn't go away. Because it's not something you fix externally, it's something you reconnect internally. And that shift changes everything. Because the moment you stop trying to be understood and start being real, something changes. Not instantly, but gradually. You feel less pressure, less need to perform, less need to adjust. And in that space, something important happens. You begin to feel present again. Not perfectly, but genuinely. And that's where connection starts, not when you fit in, but when you stop trying to. There's another layer most people don't talk about. Your mind is always active, always thinking, always analyzing, always observing. Even in simple moments, your brain doesn't switch off. And that can be exhausting, because instead of just being present, you're constantly processing everything. And when your mind is always busy, you never fully arrive in the moment. You're there, but not really there. And over time, that creates a subtle disconnection from people, from moments, from yourself. And if this has been happening for a while, something else starts to happen. You get used to it, not consciously, but slowly it becomes normal. You stop asking why you feel different, and you start thinking this is just how you are. And that's where it becomes dangerous, because once something feels normal, you stop questioning it. You stop trying to change it. You just adapt. You show up, but you don't fully engage. You talk, but you don't fully express. You exist, but you don't fully experience. And little by little, you start living on the surface of your own life. But here's what most people don't realize. You don't feel different because something is wrong with you. You feel different because you've been disconnecting from yourself. Little by little, without noticing it. Every time you held something back, every time you adjusted yourself, every time you ignored what you actually felt, you move further away from who you really are. And what you're feeling now is not being different, it's disconnection. And once you see that, everything starts to change. Because now it's not confusing anymore. It makes sense. You stop blaming yourself. You stop thinking something is wrong with you. And you start asking different questions. Where am I not being real? Where am I holding back? Where am I disconnecting from myself? And those questions change everything, because they bring you back to yourself. Because the truth is, you were never meant to feel like everyone else. You were never meant to think like everyone else. You were never meant to be like everyone else. And that feeling of being different was never the problem. It was the signal that something inside you wasn't being fully expressed, wasn't being fully lived, wasn't being fully seen, even by you. And the moment you start reconnecting, not by changing who you are, but by becoming more honest, more present, more real, that feeling begins to fade. Not all at once, but slowly. And instead of feeling different, you start feeling like yourself again. So if you've been feeling different, just know this. And after a while, you stop trying to explain it. You just accept that something about you feels different, like you're always slightly out of place, no matter where you go. But what if that feeling doesn't mean something is wrong with you? What if it actually means something else entirely? And if you've felt this your whole life, there's something you need to understand next.